The role of the salmon is so important that even those species that don't eat them are affected by the phenomenon. These are sea otters, one of the few sea mammals that remain along the coast of Alaska all year round. They are relatives of the river otter, but unlike them, the sea otters spend 90% of their lives in the water. There they eat, sleep, reproduce, and even give birth to their young. The air trapped in their fur helps them to float, but it also provides insulation against the cold, essential in this far north. Thanks to this, they can float on their backs, their favorite posture, while they eat, sleep, or simply play. They have been a protected species for many years, but still their numbers are now declining, due in part to the salmon. Salmon are not the basic diet of the otters, but they do attract the seals and sea lions which come to Alaska every year. And they, in turn, are the favorite food of the largest predator in the ocean, the orca. So when the salmon are scarce, the seals and sea lions have fewer young. And when there are not many seals, sea lions, and salmon around, the orcas have to find an alternative source of food, the otters. The habitats of Alaska are both complex and fragile, the result of the extreme conditions and thousands of years of evolution. And any change, however small it may appear, can cause irreparable damage. This delay in the arrival of the salmon can itself bring severe consequences. It's now the end of June, the salmon have still not arrived, and many animals are starting to get impatient. Day after day they enter the estuaries of the rivers in the hope of seeing the tireless travelers. And day after day they return to their rocks empty-handed. Alongside them, on a tiny nearby island, the colony of puffins seems much calmer. They too have specialized in fishing, but their prey is much smaller than the salmon. For them, the herring are their own particular feast, and this year, fishing will be plentiful. While the puffins are hard at work fishing on the neighboring island, the seals and sea lions continue their wait. Both species arrived at the start of the summer in order to reproduce. They came with plenty of fat reserves because the males don't eat during the breeding season and the females have to breastfeed their young, which is an additional drain on their resources. For them, the arrival of the salmon means an incredible source of energy just at the time they most need it. The low temperature of the water means they need a layer of fat to protect them from the cold. But if food is scarce, the sea lions, like the seals, will be forced to stop breastfeeding their young and return to their winter habitats. The pups acquire this layer of fat during lactation, so if their mothers have to return early, they will not be ready to face the journey and will die. This problem has already arisen in Alaska and has forced the law courts to place a ban on trawl net fishing in the area in order to save these colonies of marine mammals. At last there is a sign from the sea. Orcas. For once their worst enemies are a reason to rejoice as they come in pursuit of the salmon. Still, it would be a good idea to wait a little longer before diving into the banquet. The orcas are still in the vicinity, and if they spot the sea lions, they might just decide it's time to change the menu and try a little meat instead of fish. After several years out in the ocean, the 5 species of salmon that live in the rivers of Alaska return home. Millions of them approach the coast, heading for the same watercourse in which they were born, in order to carry out their final mission, to perpetuate the species. The seals watch the orcas move off while the salmon begin their journey upriver. The first ones are the most fortunate. They have a little time while the seals make sure there is no danger before diving into the water. The salmon hunting season has begun. The passage is very narrow, so it's very easy for the seals. All they have to do is wait near the entrance for lunch to arrive. For the salmon, their own personal cavalry has just begun. The water is teeming with fish, and the predators hardly need make an effort. But it is precisely their sheer numbers that enable the salmon to survive. For everyone caught, hundreds of others manage to slip past and into the river. Finally, after the terror, the first rest. Protected by the narrowness of the entrance, the salmon remain at the river mouth while they adapt to this new medium. In a few days, they will make the transition from salt water to fresh water, and in order to be able to tolerate this change, which would kill any other fish, their bodies have to undergo profound physiological transformations. Their nutritious bodies are also eagerly awaited inland, and when they arrive, thousands of birds gather at the river mouths. The salmon have finally reached the land they originally came from, but their odyssey has only just begun. Now they have to face seagulls, eagles, otters, and above all, the great predator of Alaska, the largest land carnivore in the world, the grizzly. Hundreds of bears will take up their places along the riverbanks, eagerly awaiting the nutritious salmon. For weeks they have been feeding on grasses and berries, waiting for them to arrive. The time of abundance has finally arrived, and they will be sure to make the most of it. The first days are the most intense. The fishing territories are not yet established, and everyone wants the best place. Hunger and strength will decide, Who gets first choice?